All right, welcome back to ABA exam review and the continuation of our RBT practice question series where we're going through another set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're turning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack. When you pass your exam, please let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. Emily is working with the client who will bang on walls at seemingly random times throughout the day. A plan is written that says to provide reinforcement every 5 minutes that the client does not bang on the wall. Eventually, the interval is changed to 10 minutes and then 15 minutes. What type of differential reinforcement is described? So let's think about this because it's a little bit confusing because we have all this talk about intervals. But remember, we're focused on the type of differential reinforcement that Emily is using. And with differential reinforcement, we're reinforcing something, putting something else on extinction. Let's first ask ourselves, is Emily teaching a replacement behavior? We know she's working with the client who bangs on walls throughout the day. She's only reinforcing the client when they don't bang on the wall. So she's not teaching a new behavior. She's simply reinforcing when something doesn't happen. So when we reinforce in the absence of a behavior, what do we call that? A, differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors, or DRA. With the DRA, we're going to be teaching a replacement behavior. Emily is not, so it can't be a DRA. Same with the DRI. DRIs and DRAs are the same, except with the DRI, that replacement behavior is incompatible. Since we're not teaching a replacement and instead reinforcing for a behavior not occurring, it can't be DRI either. It has to be C, DRO. With the DRO, we are reinforcing when a behavior doesn't happen. And then you have DRL, which is lower rates. Now, you don't necessarily need to worry about this too much, but with lower rates, we're just trying to reduce how often something happens. With a DRO, we're trying to eliminate it entirely by reinforcing the behavior when that behavior does not occur. So Emily is using a DRO procedure. A client learns to tie her shoes independently using a task analysis and reinforcement. After demonstrating mastery in multiple sessions, Jake transitions to providing reinforcement on a variable schedule and gradually reduces the frequency of direct practice on this skill. Eventually, Jake only occasionally checks to see if the client can tie their shoes. What is Jake checking for? Okay, so let's think about what Jake is doing initially. Initially, we know the client is learning to tie shoes independently and then demonstrates mastery. And then Jake starts fading out the schedules. So he's basically teaching. He sees mastery, he starts to fade, and then he reduces frequency of direct practice. He's essentially removing the teaching of the shoes because the skill is being mastered. Now we know afterwards, he's only occasionally checking to see if the client can tie their shoes. So in other words, we worked on a skill, we taught a skill, the client mastered that skill, we reduced actual teaching and practice, and then we only see occasionally if that skill maintains. And so if we're looking to see if the skill maintains, that will, of course, be maintenance. So what is Jake checking for? A, generalization. We're not looking to see if the client can tie their shoes in different settings or with different people. We're more worried about we've reduced practice, we've stopped practice. Can they still tie their shoes altogether? So Jake is worried about maintenance. Now, this word regression, you might hear it used in practice, but remember, for your exam, we want to stick to the task list. We want to stick to our vocabulary. And so we want to talk about maintenance, not necessarily regression. Momentum, we do have behavior momentum, but we're not dealing with behavior momentum here. Jake isn't looking for behavior momentum. He's simply looking to see, has the shoe tying behavior maintained, even though there's really not any direct practice anymore. A client engages in repetitive vocalizations throughout the day, both when alone and with others. The behavior also occurs in multiple settings for no obvious reason. The behavior does decrease, however, when the client is given a preferred task following the vocalizations. The preferred tasks are likely acting as blank. Now, again, let's be careful here, right? It's a consequence question because we're looking at the preferred task, and we know preferred tasks are given following the behavior of the vocalizations. So what do we know so far? We know there's vocalizations. We know they happen for no reason. We also know the behavior decreases. So let's think about that. We have a behavior that is decreasing because of the preferred tasks that are given. So if the preferred tasks are decreasing the behavior, then the preferred tasks have to be punishment. You've got to be very careful here. We're always looking at how consequences affect future behavior. That behavior is decreasing, it's punishment. If it's increasing, it's reinforcement. Since the behavior is decreased whenever a preferred task is given as the consequence, the preferred task is a punishment. And since the preferred task is added, it's given, it must be positive. Let's put those together. Let's look at A and B. Reinforcement, the preferred task is not reinforcement. The behavior is decreasing. Again, you've got to read carefully and think critically about this question. It is going to be C, positive punishment, or positive because it's added, it's given. It's punishment because it's decreasing. And then, of course, D, negative punishment, is when something is removed. The preferred tasks are not removed, they're added. So the preferred tasks are likely acting as C, positive punishment. A child is learning to identify different vehicles. A picture of a car, a toy truck, and a picture of a boat all evoke the response of vehicle from the child. The three stimuli could be considered what? All right, so we're looking at these three stimuli together. And so if we take all three stimuli, what do we know about the stimuli? Well, we know they're all vehicles, of course. We have cars and trucks and boats, and they all evoke the response of vehicle. So when you have a bunch of different stimuli, like car and truck and boat, that are evoking the same response, what do we call that? A stimulus class. Yes, a stimulus class is a set of stimuli that come together and evoke the same response. Sometimes they share characteristics, sometimes they don't. There are different types of stimulus classes that you don't really need to worry about right now. But if we have three stimuli, all evoking vehicle, they're part of a stimulus class. It's not a response class, right? Because we're looking at the stimuli here. So don't worry about the responses and the response classes. Think about what the question is asking and focused on. The question is focused on the stimuli. And so we know the stimuli are evoking the same response. It must be a stimulus class. A 19-year-old with a developmental delay wants to learn how to make his own peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. The 19-year-old's parents decide they will use a task analysis to create a task chain for this skill. Which of the following chains would be most appropriate? So, some hard questions today because we're thinking critically. Which of the following chains is going to be most appropriate? Immediately in your head, with every client, you should be thinking, we have to individualize this. So we know we have a 19-year-old with a developmental delay. They want to make sandwiches, and we're going to make a task analysis. Does that tell us anything about the client, their needs, their skill level, their behavior? No. All we know is they're 19 and they have a developmental delay. How can we possibly know what chain is going to be most appropriate given this information? We can't. So we look at A, B, and C. They're each chains for making this sandwich, each of different lengths, each with different steps. But the real answer is going to be C, cannot determine with given information. We don't know nearly enough about this 19-year-old to decide the chain that's going to be most appropriate for making the sandwich. Always think individualization. Always think what's going to be best for that client and specifically that client. Thanks for watching. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials. Subscribe, please. We really, really appreciate it. When you pass, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.